Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Sunday. And thank you, everybody, from us to you. And this is the Initiative Order and the very first episode of Evermore Tales, the Samurai and the Dragon. Before we get into a lot of exciting things we've got going on with everything today and the amazing story we want to present, I wanted to take the time to thank both the players, as well as some of our sponsors, Session Zero Gaming, Mithril Armor, Norse Foundry Dice, and as well as ourselves from Roaming Player Gear. And I also wanted to thank you guys for taking the opportunity to watch this story today. We're all going to present a very unique look to a world that has taken well more than 2 good decades of just immense player interaction. But before we get to that point, before we peel that lid back, I wanted to let all of our players introduce themselves. Let's start with you first, London.
Awesome. First off, before anything about me, I want to say thank you, Ray, for inviting me into this world that's older than me. So thanks for that. Hello, everybody. My name is London Carlisle. I'm an actor. I'm a TTRPG content creator. Some people may know me as the game master of Spot Hidden, which is a Call of Cthulhu stream that we do. I'm all about the spooky times. I'm ready for those. Always ready for those. But today I am here with something nice in store for you. Something new to me. But thanks for having me. You can find me on Twitter at London Carlisle. My name.
Excellent. And let's go to Bree.
Hi guys, I'm Brianna, but many of you guys know me as Utahime Cosplay. I'm a cosplayer, streamer, and lover of all things D&D and TTRPG related, and gaming, of course. And you can find me at Utahime Cosplay on Facebook, Instagram, here on Twitch, where I stream, and then Brianna DeCoster on Twitter. And again, I have to reiterate the fact that I am, just like London said, I am so grateful to be welcome to this table and to be a part of such an amazing world that Evermore is. It's so epic, and I'm so excited to dive into this story with you guys.
It's going to be great. Jess?
My name's Jess. You can find me at Rising Valkyrie on Instagram. I'm going to be in a few things. If you want to check that out, promos will always be posted on my Instagram. That's where you'll find out. Thank you, Ray, again for letting me be in Qorvi again. A lovely, lovely place. I'm so happy to be in such an amazing place again. So looking forward to it.
And finally, Josh.
Well, hi, I'm Josh of NPC Voices. I am an LA-based, as of 5 days ago, LA-based voice actor, and model, and soon to be OnlyFans. Who knows what may come. But I am not happy to be here. I'm not going to follow the track of the past 3 people. I am begrudgingly here at this incredible table that I've got to now live up to the incredible legacy that is Evermore, which is also way older than I am, like old. But yeah, that's it about me.
This is great. I'm excited for this. So why don't we begin with the intro video, and then we'll roll in right into it. Welcome to Evermore Tales, everybody. Today we begin The Samurai and the Dragon. As you've seen with the video, this place is a well-nestled area, but I wanted to thank everybody because what I wanted you to kind of picture yourself, think of you as an eagle. You would be sitting or standing on this rock. The reason I'm saying this is because you would look all around you 360 and see the beaches, the seas. You would see rice fields 360 from this location, but looking directly downwards. There would be statues, large, big, giant statues with water fountains or waterfalls colliding right outside of the mouth. And you would look and see this eagle look downwards. And this eagle would see about 300 to almost 500 feet of a drop. This bird, as free as it would get to the edge of this stone, tap on the stone, and just jump off and fly right down. You would see with its wings soaring right down to the falls. But the thing that would take your appearance almost immediately is you would see 14, 15, 16-year-old children at the edge of these cliffs, looking right at this eagle, looking directly down, and they would run as fast as they could and make that same 300-foot jump. The minute they hit the ground or they hit the free-form air, you would also see their wings right out as well. They would all be flying down this valley, and the peace and the somber moments of it all, you can feel the wind in your hair, the wind going through your feathers, the wind through your claws, and look and see thousands of rice fields, villages. It's a simple living. There are stands where people are sitting on top of the water fishing. There are people and families wearing nothing but just the skin on their backs and as free as the day they were born. You would see the sun, you would see the archipelago and just the shining parts of the waters and the joy in the faces of the rice fields as the people that live there and toil the lands, but it's something that they provide to themselves. This large eagle would fly over a collection of pagodas, and where it would land would be one very specific pagoda. You would see this eagle screech as loud as possible, and on the bottom floor there would be a pagoda that stands in the middle of the night. There would be a large collection of people. If you look at their faces, they have Asian appearances, they have orc appearances, they have very classic human appearances. They are the people. The things, if you looked in their eyes and in their face, you would see not only the innocence of where they live, but the villages they represent. All standing, all in gaggles of groups. They would look, you would hear the voices, things of monks disappearing, the importance of what those monks would represent, the feelings and the emotions of fear, because all these people are looking at each other and wondering, what are we doing here? Mujun, let's begin with you. Surrounding you, you would see those warriors, but you would hear, great warrior. What would we see, Mujun?
First thing you notice about Mujun, he's small. When you think of orcs, you think of this mental strength, this physical strength, but Mujun stands a little shorter than the rest, a little leaner than the rest. He's about 6 foot tall, I'd say, 180 pounds. His muscles are tight, but his frame is slight. This has always been a point of contention with other orcs around him, other half orcs like himself. But this half orc monk has these curls of dark hair on top of his head that almost cover his eyes. His hair has grown in his isolation over the past while. He is shirtless. He has these armbands of different shades of gold, different varieties of sort of metal tarnish adorn both of his wrists. Going even down further, He has these baggyish pants that are a green hue there. Also, there are some reds and golds, all adorned with these sort of gold chains that wrap around the waist, and these sort of gold tinted uh, tassels that hang off of the layering of these garments here. But as he's surrounded by these warriors, by these orcs, by all these people, he's thinking back to his own seclusion, to leaving safety and coming back, something that these other monks not done. So the main thing you see is true smallness in Mujin. He he wants to help the best that he can, but is he up for the challenge? In his eyes, you can see that he's not so sure.
And you would notice also surrounding you, there would be monks. They would be standing there and they would hear, they have put you here to help bring them back from the depths of the dangers that they have come, but the ceremonies that have been interfered. You would hear people go, "It is hard enough to understand that the monks would show themselves, but to bring their guardians here, this is indeed a sacred rite." And at the same time, they would all stop aside. Yuki, what do we see?
Yuki has a presence that commands attention. Walks to the center. He has a lithe physique, stands about 5'9". Yuki has a delicate face. Her silvery eyes seem to match the color of a full moon. Her chestnut colored hair, parts are pulled up into stylish buns, and other parts are braids that are intricately wrapped around the crown. There are lovely traditional floral hairpins with pearls and golden tassels with crystals at the bottom, falling down, laying atop the rest of hair that flows down. The hairpins match the color of her wine that have red and pink flowers, some flowers that are also blue, woven into the rich fabric. And at her hip, Hana, that matches the color of her wine color. You'll see accents of gold at the hilt, across the handle, scabbard. Seems to have some writing. Only some recognize tonic. Yuki wears tabby socks, wooden sandals that seem to complete the rest. As you know, I always have my ear to the ground, as one could say, going on here at Qorvi. It's hard to miss that information, especially since, as you notice, my ear is quite long. Oh, wrong audience. Once I heard the kid was entangled in this mess, I rushed back. I wanted further information. Hopefully bring everyone back to safety. Get to the bottom of why, how this could have occurred in the first place. As you know, House Miyazaki in the land of Qorvi is close to my heart. So, it is my duty to serve and protect the land and its people, what I hold so dear. Also, the boy's training is far from complete, so I can't have him die while in my care, can I?
And you would recognize there would be a gentleman that comes out in the very same house resemblance or the house kimono of Miyazaki. You can see he's very distraught. Gentleman sees time on his face. He's very old. But House Miyazaki is defined by its women and its leaders and the strength that it has. As you see what looks like the mother of Toshiro walk forward, stalwart, she looks to you and you can tell just with the cracks in her face, she's seen time. But that look that she has is giving you as she looks, peers directly right into your eyes, Yuki, is the love of a mother and a son. Because she looks directly at you and you hear her say, "Bring my boy home.
Promise you, shall return. Safe. Yuki would grab her hands.
You see her put her head down. Just, it's not a tear. She won't ever let the audience see that. But you can see she gets up, she takes a deep breath, and she looks directly at Joyi. As a representative of one of the original homes, ones that defend those of the lives of Qorvi, which you would see is Joyi and the rest of her house there directly across from her. But the part that would give you is there is a child, all but 10 years old. She has the same house colors. She doesn't have the house logos because she's had to draw them in with crayon and ink. She holds a small katana in her hand. Not enough, not old enough, and definitely not worth it to fight as far as in the dangers, but she looks at you as a resemblance of what is strength. She takes a deep breath, and you can see somebody come up to her and try to pull her to the side. She bats her shoulder back. Joyi, what do we see?
You see a petite, slim Azuma with her traditional Chinese dress made of gold, reds and gold detailing, fitted but loose enough for her to move and gracefully fight when she needs to. Her hair is always in these two buns, ready for training whenever she needs it, and whenever she feels like she needs to train harder. Every movement she makes is with intention. Every movement has intention and purpose, but she does it with grace and patience. On her right will be her loyal steed with a beautiful mane and very well kept. You can see that they are one in the same, almost. She turns to this child and looks down at this child and holds out her hand as an action of endearment, and just holds this child's hand together and begin to walk forward. As you walk, you will see her gold slippers start shining. As a representative of her house, she holds her shoulders high, her chest up, her chin up, trying to represent the strength and power and protection that her family holds dearly for Qorvi. She walks forward and says, I will defend my family's honor. I will defend our legacy. And I am here to help as much as I can, and whatever I can do, I will offer. That is what we stand for as the House of Lamb.
And you would also see there are children that have shaved their heads, shaved their eyebrows. They are in orange ornate robes. They are in white robes, and they represent the wanting, the loss. They represent the void that is these monks that have disappeared, that have been taken away from the temples themselves. And as they all kind of bow their heads, they would also come to you, and they would also walk to the side as a strength of representation. House Lamb represents a very, very older part of Qorvi. As the Azamar wings that she has, she represents the celestial bloodline, the thing that runs through every Qorvashi swordsman. But more importantly, you would see the female, the one in the Miyazaki robes, the mother, begin to walk down. She grabs both of your hands. She says something that only in the house language that you would hear. It's in her beautiful dialect of Cantonese coming from the side of the family that she once held. You hear her tell you the same. Let them see you. Let them see everything you bring. And she just puts her head and forehead to yours, and you can feel the calmness that she isn't in this disposition that she tries to hold as she kind of keeps her shoulders straight. And at the same point, she would look over to the right. It would almost seem as this person would be in a sea of Qorvashi. And he would stick out. But Ivan, what do we see?
Around, as Ivan kind of stands around all these other individuals, you hear as he's tapping this black and gray spiraling pipe against his gauntlet on his left hand. What you see on him in terms of armor, you see leather pieces with metal rivets on the knuckles for the gauntlets and metal spikes on the back of the arms. Definitely nowhere near the fine drab that everyone else, the fine garb, not drab, the fine garb that everyone else is wearing. He seems to be a traveler. On his chest, he has a leather chest breast piece. Doesn't cover his stomach, but just his upper chest. And then a red cloak that tumbles around it with this purple lining on the sides, this trim. Underneath the leather chest piece, he wears a dark green shirt with a similar purple lining to it. On his knees and on his feet, he also has leather pieces. On his knees, you see scraps and scrapes, cuts along, and beneath the leather, you can see almost glimpses of metal, as if the leather underneath it has a sheet of metal to it. A similar concept is on his feet, these ragged old Viking-style boots, where on the tips of the toes are metal pieces. His face, mangled. His left eye is covered with some sort of band or leather strap. You can see his eyebrow, though, as it has a cut through it that hair has not grown on or refuses to grow. His left ear is mangled, cut, and messed up as it's grown kind of inward on itself, but you can still see the ear. His hair shaved along the sides, his dirty blonde hair pulled back with two fine braids that come back towards a bun that's held back there. And around his neck, you see a beautiful golden circlet, similar to this one, but gold, with two wolves' heads pointed in towards the collarbone. And as he taps out the weed or the tobacco into a little pouch, he stuffs it in again. You hear as he just kind of looks around with his good eye. And then as he turns, you see finally in the light along his cheeks these two long scars that go almost mid-cheek on him as he kind of licks the corner of his mouth, kind of looks back. Brown pants and two hand axes at his side, looking around expectantly for what comes next.
And that same look, what you would also notice from you in your position is there would be a couple of these Qorvashi. When you look at a Qorvashi person, you would notice they're very darker skinned. They would look as their eyes, a lot of innocence in their eyes. The crow's feet that go around their eyes, they stand about, you're looking at it between 5'5" and about 5'3". But they walk up to you and it's very much cloth shorts made out of, some of them cloth, some of them burlap, but they drop what looks like a box in front of you.
He looks down at it and looks back up at them, takes another.
You would look down, you would see gold coins kind of almost coming out of the sides of this. The Qorvashi people stare down and they look at you. And it's this look of, this is what they have to do. There's not enough Qorvashi swordsmen. This situation needs other expertise. And they would look around and they would question the method, but keep their head down.
Ivan will reach down and grab a gold piece, flip it into his hands, catch it, look at it in the light. Does it bend?
It does bend.
He nods with a big, goofy smile on his face as he plops it back into the chest, tries to close it up as much as possible.
And the Qorvashi people pick it back up. And you would see at this point, as you all looking around, it's about, I would say about 1 o'clock in the morning. The lights that are actually being illuminated right now are little small tea lights that are being amplified by holders. but you would see that they have taken every opportunity to make sure that this was a quiet event. The people, although talking, there is a point of this where you can see the mother of the warrior that you must find, his name being Toshiro. She walks in front. She doesn't say anything. She looks at Yuki. She looks at Mujun, Joyi, and Ivan. You need to understand the seriousness of this all. My husband is beyond words. The monks are nowhere to be found. This being on the omen of the blood moon, and you would see her just put her head down. But you would also notice at this point a soldier walk up. You would recognize this soldier as a gentleman named Boy. Small nickname that he's been given, but he is the only lone soldier to have survived an event at a temple. He tells you of a story of seeing his friends ripped apart by an invisible creature. He tells you how they were mangled, but he also tells you a beautiful story as you would see him describe to you Toshiro and his massive size, and knowing that he had not finished his training, wield this sword in his hand, trying to defend against something that he couldn't even see. And you would see this boy, this man sit down with his hands, and he just looks and he buries it into just buries his face. He tells you, was it brave? I couldn't do it. He is the only survivor from a city of Busan where this temple is located. What do you like to do?
Is he sitting or is he still standing?
You can see as he's knelt to the ground, and there's a part of this where he's kneeling. It's almost in a sign of honor, but apology. He kneels at the waist of the matriarch of Miyazaki, and you can see as he's doing it, he doesn't dare touch the kimono, but he keeps his hands on the ground and he keeps his head on the ground, and she would put her hand on her shoulder, on his shoulder. And this is what you see.
Our bravery is often tested. Do not carry the burden, the weight, guilt that you. This is a burden shared with all of us. It's your duty to protect this land.
You could see his 19-year-old face look to you. He stands and he knows Yuki's presence in this land. For a conversation to be had, she was always accessible to talk, but he looks at you as if you're the only guidance in pitch dark. He stands, he takes a deep breath. I can bring you back to the city. I can do this. He looks down and takes a deep breath. Is there anything one would like to ask?
Is he still kneeling?
And at this point, as he stands after what Yuki has just described to him, a very motivational point, you would see Joyi as he's looking directly at you, his hands still shaking. He's all but 108 pounds, 5'8". You can even see the armor that he wears. It drags one of his shoulders down, as you can tell that it's not an injury. It's just the way he compensates to be able to hold the armor.
And I'll turn to, or I'd let go of the child's hand, and I'd say, "Stay here, darling. Stay here." And I'll walk towards Boy.
And making
Oh,
the distance. Go ahead.
I'll hold his hands to steady them, to steady his nerves. And I say, Look, you did what you could. You tried your hardest. And that's all we can ask is that you do your best. Then you can say, I did, I tried. We are here to help. You can help lead us that way. Right, Yuki?
The monks, they were ripped to pieces. We saw them. Bones were broken. It bit them in pieces. I don't. And he stops as he looks to you, and you see his hands just, he takes a deep breath. Son.
Hearing that, Mujun would like to step forward. He even wants to try to interject as he's, going back to this place. Please, just for a moment, you must breathe. The things you saw were terrible. The things you know that breathe for a moment with me. And he kind of gets on his level, whatever that is, and guides him through with a couple of deep breaths, then exhale.
As you're doing this, you would actually notice everybody, if you would look at the night, as the stars begin to move a lot more rapidly when Mujin is saying this. It's almost as if you would see a time sequence move these things, and you would see the comets in the background. But even him being there would be a calmness of both the moon, stars, and the internal galaxy. You would see him look to you, and it's almost a representation of he begins to tell you a recitement of the words of safety, a recitement of the words of protection. He would hold your hands, Mujin, and he would ask, "Fight me." And he would put his forehead to his hands, touch his chin, and keep it down, and almost at a subtle point of calmness, keep it and just wait for you to react.
I kind of, I match him. Mujin also clasps his hand together to his head, matching him being right there, um, and leads by example. Also, one eye opens to notice the turn of the sky, something that Mujin has been very keen on learning more about in the past, but closes it, continues, and speaks more of this protection and this guidance. He also, in the middle of all this, looks to Yuki and Yi and Ivan and everyone else that's gathered around, just to make sure there isn't anyone else that also needs this assistance. Please feel free to join me if anyone else would like. These are tough times, trying times, and stillness can sometimes be momentarily beneficial. Good? And he goes back.
I would like to turn to Ivan, actually, if that's okay. And let's say, traveler, I'd like to thank you from the people of Qorvi for helping, for getting involved and aiding us in this difficult time. Very greatly from the House of Lamb, as a representative, as the lead representative, I'd like to say thank you.
It's my pleasure. I'm just happy to be here to be of service, to say the least. Quick question, how much was in that chest? It was quite full, so the answer's yes, but just wondering for personal preferences.
I do not have that information privy to me. Perhaps Yuki or Muhan here can answer instead. I answer that.
Unfortunately, I too don't have that answer.
And you would see Miyazaki's family, the matriarch, stand, and she would hear the exchange of coin and look to you and say, "My son's life is more than that treasure of chests, that collection of gold, but I understand the ways of your people. I have put Exactly as you've asked. There'll be 2,000 gold now, and 2,000 when you get back.
Perfect. And Ivan will, still with his constant smirk, he will bow, putting the pipe out in one hand and the other hand beneath him. I'm at your service, whether it's to retrieve your son or to save him and all those around him. I'm here for you and to bring light and well-being into your life. Thank you for having me.
And knowing it's more for her, a custom outside of the lands of Qorvi, but she has seen it in her travels, and she would put her hand and extend it out in front of you.
And he'll reach forward and go for the clasp.
And she smiles as she recognizes that may be a new custom from you, and she laughs and goes to pick you, or like kind of lean your elbow up to kind of get you to eye level, but notices you're actually quite significantly tall. She's tall herself, but she realizes how tall you are at the adjustment. At the same time, you would see this person, after getting back up from Mujun, boy walks and takes a couple of steps. You would see as he's looking around, and he tells you, Busan is almost 2 days travel from here. If we have to move quick and silent. And that's what you hear the matriarch from House Miyazaki tell you. This cannot be known from the other villages and houses. I don't trust this knowledge with them, because we're already seeing things that didn't typically happen in Qorvi. The spirits and the ghosts are imbalanced. The trees are withering. And the great forest and falls, the falls of Celestia, are slowly drying. I trust each and every one of you. And I understand you, I buy your trust. But I have been told that you are the best. And they would all look to each other. The boy takes a quick walk, step forward. I'm ready to go when you are. Questions for the group? What would you like to do?
I turn to. Oh, sorry. After you.
Yuki would step forward and place a hand on his shoulder. It would almost be like a brief flicker of light as she casts guidance over the boy. You will be ready next time.
Is there a visual component to this spell? Like, is there anything anybody would see as this almost this comforting embrace is happening?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that for me?
Yes, great.
All they would see is there's almost like it's as if it's like static electricity, that kind of just pulsing light that appears, but almost it happens so quickly that if you didn't see it or weren't looking in that direction, you may not have even noticed. And it's like a soft, pale blue light that would have, when she touched boy's shoulder, would have illuminated.
You would see some of his cuts that he had made, probably the cut on his forehead that he had when he fell, the elbow abrasions that he had slowly begin to close. Not necessarily because it's a healing spell, but with the guidance and the feel and the emotion of this. He closes his eyes, and you can just see him look towards the great falls of Celestia, these waterfalls that are in the background, and butt up against those are the temples. You would see even further beyond that. He would tell you, Buson, we'll have to go past the falls. And he would go and grab some items on the ground, a small bag, a little personal bag, nothing big, nothing that would show any kind of voyage for this. And I think that's the part you're looking at as you assume from him. He definitely looks like he's not ready to go on any kind of trek. There is a subtleness to him, a fragilitiness to him as well. When you are all ready, questions for the group.
Are we walking or riding?
I have my steed. If we can find a carriage, I can carry, and I'll fly alongside.
I worry a carriage might draw too much attention.
Or wagon, perhaps.
Either should work. That will get us there, perhaps quicker.
Mhm.
Do you think time is of the essence here? We agree on
Of course
that?
it is.
It's Toshiro, of course it is.
Exactly.
And this occurrence, it's not by chance. The timing. That is what I'm worried.
Time is of the essence. I think we can all agree. I would like to turn to the matriarch. I'd like to hold her hands again.
And she would welcome your handhold. What would you like to say?
I'd like to say, as she extends her hands, as Joey extends her hand, you'll see two tattoos, one on either side of her forearms. One that symbolizes the Chinese character for strength, and the other for forest, which is what her family name means. And she holds up both these arms out dearly and tightly, and says to her in Cantonese, "Kude we tang with they, kude we gin with they." What are you gaiyao? Oh my gaijo. And that means that when she said that, she meant they will hear us, they will see us, and we must continue. We must keep going with strength.
And you would see her embrace you as she would embrace a daughter. And you would see the house as this is a representation of it. It's the people of Qorvi take care of each other. There's no hierarchy here. Everybody here is family. You can see that in the representation of this as they are embracing one another. And it's that they don't share blood, they share a common language. But what they share in this moment is the voyage in which to bring this mother the one thing that she wants, and that's the love of a son. You would see her as she does it with you and she lets you go. Busan in the background, or our good friend, boy in the background, looking at you, and he can see Yuki, he can see Ivan, he sees this monk and sees how serious this all is. Licks his lips and looks at the night. You can tell he's tired himself. Actions for anybody else?
Ivan would look around for closest thing to leadership here, whether within the group or whatever's closest, and just, did anyone else see that the stars in kind of cosmos, the thing, or was it just that Mujun saw that and no one else?
Everybody saw it.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought.
Of course. That's why I said the occurrence was no coincidence. And the timing, all very interesting.
Mhm.
I'll get to the bottom of it.
Right.
Yuki is going to take a second, if possible. She's going to examine Ivan head to toe. And I don't know if if Yuki in her travels, if she would know certain things about Ivan. But if I have to do perception or whatever necessary for this.
Give me a perception roll when you get a chance.
That's an 18.
Excellent. What are you looking for specifically?
Just if Yuki had come across any people similar to Ivan in his stature, and even if there's scarring or the scars that he mentioned on his face, different things where it might remind her of a place that she had been before, to get a kind of a little bit of insight into the type of person that is traveling with them, because he is
Ivan,
an outsider.
what would she see from this coming from the northern areas? What are you willing to share?
Oh, um, Ivan is a perceptive fellow, I would like to believe, and he would see Yuki kind of looking at him. There's something you like, something you're trying to get a look at. Eyes are up here, or eye is up here. And as you look at him, you see very much accents of a desert traveler. His clothing, even though he has many layers, they seem to be not thick like wool. They seem to be a bit of a thinner material. And his hair, as you with that high check, you can see his hair at the roots are darker, and that his hair itself is very blonde. Like I said, dirty blonde, but you can tell by his leather, by his clothing, by his hair, it is all very sun bleached, like that of being in the sun for hours and upon hours. As you look across his body, you see in his exposed hands, because he has gauntlets, but they only cover the knuckles and the forearms, not the fingers. And you see his fingers, multiple scarring, um, nails that are, when they've healed, they healed up and like have a flat part to it, like they've been broken many times over, calloused and slightly dirty fingernails, or calloused hands, but slightly dirty fingernails as well. He seems to have been some sort of fighter and worked with his hands day in, day out, and whatever that may mean.
And the look and appearance from him, he does hail from the desert areas. You would recognize those desert areas home to temperatures at about 145 ambient. He wears lighter clothing because they have to be mobile. Nomads.
And he stands roughly, I didn't say this before, but he stands roughly 6'3" to 6'4" in stature.
You would ascertain.
Hmm. Answer to your question is to be determined. But I see that you are one that has seen many a battle, not to mention hard labor, hottest of sun. Just quite curious what brings you this area. Simply just coin?
I've also heard that the tobacco is good here, and you have some fine steel and wonderful stories that I'd love to learn about, but coin always does help from time to time. But I'd love for you to get to know me more as well.
And then you see Yuki kind of gracefully walk away.
Questions to the group.
Would Mujin be able to hear that whole sort of conversation there?
I would say yes.
Mujin sort of just kind of glides over. Um, the coin isn't everything here. Feel like we'll both miss out on a lot if we focus on that.
I agree. That is a very deep understanding of them. You have quite the light in your eyes.
Thank
How
you.
have you been delivered within this worldly knowledge?
Quite like you, I move. I spend a lot of time just getting away from it all, thinking, trying to study, trying to learn, and I'm still in that process. But you seem to have a lot of experience. I want to know what you know.
I've got stories and words for days. I think we're going to get along. as he kind of taps the mouthpiece of the pipe on his chest. I'm Ivan, as he sticks out a hand.
Mujun, as he also sticks out a hand, not to grasp yours, but he just sticks it out. He doesn't quite know exactly what to do with it.
And he grabs him hand to hand and shakes his hand. And nice to meet you, Mujin. Strong name around here.
I would say so. I hope to give it that. We are what we put into our names. And you see him, like you see his hand as it leaves yours, it drifts down like to his side. Tucked in the side of the layers of clothing, there is this small book. His hand just goes straight to that, just kind of rests on it. You see from the outside that it's kind of just like worn and as if it's been like picked up and opened and closed many a time, but now it rests there, and anybody can see that there.
Almost absentmindedly, he twirls the pipe within his fingers and then taps it over to the other hand, and that same motion tapping out into his side pouch. The burnt tobacco as he puts a little bit more in, and I'm gonna love to hear about that sometime if you're willing to share. As his head then turns to the other individual he saw within the group. How about you? What's your name? What's your purpose? I know it's not coin, as I definitely feel like the outcast around here for that sort of thinking, but I'm interested. Speaking to Joey.
I'll kind of politely, softly let go of the matriarch's hands, and I turn to Ivan, and I say, "Hi, my name is Joey," and she extends her hand out, shake,
and he grabs it and bows. Nice to meet you. I am Ivan. Happy to be part of this merry band.
It's my pleasure to meet you, Ivan. And like I said before, thank you, gratefully, for assisting us and aiding. So yes, it is for coin. I do appreciate your assistance. She'll give you a bit of attitude, just slight attitude, because she has always done things out of loyalty and bond and kinship.
And if he can tell that, he just bows. Again, same similar bow, the hand to his chest and out. Well, I appreciate being appreciated. Thank you. He stands back upright. All right. As he looks around, and you said everyone around is roughly like 5'5" to 5'8".
Yuki is 5'9".
Perfect. He looks around. All right. Should we go out with weapons drawn, or are we going more on the foot and toe?
I think discreet is what we're going for, I believe. I turn again to Shira's parents and I ask, do you have a wagon or some form of carriage that we could possibly use?
We will give you anything you need, Joey. And you would see some of the Qorvi villagers kind of take it's a wagon, pretty much bring it to the side. It's a small draft horse, enough to kind of get you where you go. But the thing that makes it very different from this is that the pieces that are put together, the wagon itself is lashed with bamboo. There are parts of it that have been entwined. There is rope made of hemp that keeps everything together. And then the Miyazaki sign on the back of it. You also notice that in this cart, again, to keep discreet, they have put boxes that would have the symbol of House Miyazaki, but it would say the symbol of mochi, because they also sell mochi as a business in the village. So there would be folded cardboard boxes of mochi that they would put inside there, and they would tell you to bring it with you. And Boy would come up to it as well, and he would look to you, Joey, and bring the wagon. And you would see as he's doing it, there's a struggle to it. He's trying to get like this thing to move, and it's like he puts it over his shoulder, and he's just trying to get it to come closer. It's very much, you can tell that he's not a farmer, he's not a warrior, and the look of him, he's a fisherman.
Hmm. And I just kind of laugh a little bit, just kind of giggle at it. He said he's trying to move the wagon, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I just laugh at just how funny this is, the situation. Not the situation in general, but what I see right in front of me. And I will click my fingers twice and say long. And that's in Cantonese is dragon, which is what my steed is called.
And you would see as if the someone said dragon, the steed itself, it would almost like come to attention, and then it would see its small prances, but it would position itself to accept the bridle. And it's not necessarily as a horse of burden, but these horses, as they accumulate to you, they are seen as one for one in the relationship of animal and person. They are cared for, they are massaged, they are born and bred with the service that they are loyal to the lamb family. It positions itself and it readies to put the bridle inside into its mouth.
Mm-hmm. And I start harnessing the wagon to my I was about to say dragon as well, right? My horse.
Yeah.
And attach everything, make sure it's all secure. And I say, look, we have a spot on the horse or two for people to fit. We have space in the wagon with the mochi boxes. And I will take charge on an aerial view, if everyone is okay with that, just to keep an eye out.
Okay.
He will approach Bashiro's parents as well. She will take a hand, theirs, and she'll say to them, I know words cannot bring. Your heart is heavy, mine is racing. But you must take care of each other. You must take care of House Miyazaki. And will bring him others. Don't lose faith.
You would hear the gong in the background being signified as they're given for one symbol of each of the monks. A total of 10 cymbals can be heard ringing inside of the city, or inside of this pagoda. You would see the father look at you and hug you. Mother look at you and hug you. You would also see a very young female, hair as black as night, all the way to her lower back, and she would walk up to boy, and they would also exchange pleasantries, as you would tell that they are together as well. And you would see them both hold each other's hands in this exchange of, he might not come back. He puts her head down, and you see what she looks over, and she bends down, and you can see take a knife. She cuts what looks like the strand from the back of her hair, and she gives it to him. He places it in a box, and in this box, he unclasps it, and you can see a small blue recorder that he's placed in this box. And it's an item that he keeps with him. It's an item from a fisherman's village, that the only music, that the beauty that he has seen in this world, he has heard from this one instrument. And he covets it. You see him put it in a bag, closes the bag, and the look that he has on his face is of a soldier or a young villager, be able to serve under such great warriors as of yourselves. Be ready to leave.
Yuki would sit at the side of wherever Joey, outside of the wagon. That would be.
I would turn to Yuki and say, I trust you to ride my steed and lead, if that is okay with you.
I appreciate
No.
Yuki.
Like I said, I will take to the skies with my wings so I can keep a bird's eye view of what is to come.
Question: is this wagon? So is it like covered? Is it open? Is there a place in the back to stick out? Like, what does that look like exactly?
And what you would notice from this is the wagon itself, it's more of a food storage, almost like I don't
Right.
want to say like a classic rickshaw appearance, but it definitely has that look like it's been converted. You can see the extensions on the back. They have the little food boxes there as
On
well.
the yes, on the
That's
right.
correct.
Just making sure.
Mhm. That's correct. That's correct. Excellent. So at about 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning, this kickoff begins. You all begin to walk out into the rice paddies. And that's the whole part about this, is that this journey is unconventional. The roads that have been paved away is not your options. In fact, what you would notice from Boy is that there are moments where he's had to jump off of this, take the carriage and try to push it as much as he can. There's been points that you might have helped him with, but the things you'll also see is that your movements, you're walking through these rice fields. It's beautiful. Miles. You'd occasionally see maybe one, two, three people at best standing on these giant posts in the middle of the rice fields, casting fishing line. You would see them also look and they would yell and smile. And the first thing you'd notice, Mujun, is about maybe I'd say about 20 or maybe 15 hours into your journey, the first rice field, it's just been that forests, rice fields. But you would see somebody on the post and they would look at you and they would go, hello, hey. And at the tail end of that, there would also be four other people. They look like children, naked as the day they were born, jump into the water, into the rice fields. And they know they're going into this dirty water, but they look up and they swim and they just sit there and smile as if it is the only care that they ever lived.
Mujin extends a hand, uh, a wave, a very awkward wave he gives to these people. And then as this is happening, he takes out the book that was in the side of his clothing there, opens it up. What Mujin gazes upon is just blank sheets. It's all blank sheets. They're dirty and stained from like eraser marks from where he's trying to get started with whatever this journey is. He takes it out, he tries to start. It's not beginning. Here, seeing this freedom, seeing these people without this care, starts to chronicle that as he's on this journey. First words.
Where is Mujin? And is he inside of the cart wagon?
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out exactly where I am
If you
on
were
it.
to
But
I
look
know.
at
I'm like, because I'm
yeah.
outside and I'm on Juyi's steed, correct? And
Mhm.
then Mujin is, so is the steed walking kind of on the side or like basically alongside?
almost like as if it was latched to it, but you would have it move.
Okay.
And then also her steed is free forming. So if you looked at the wagon, kind of figure it as this: you would have this wagon that extends in front, the beast of burden that's attached to it, the one that was originally provided with you, and then Joye's horse right to the side of it. So you'd actually see it free form.
Would I have seen Mujin take out his book and start writing?
I'm on any sort of edge of this thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm an open view. Nothing secretive.
Also, who is leading the cart?
Currently, right now would be Boy.
Okay. Okay.
So Yuki turns to Mujin. You'll find that this land often inspires the best of work. Place
Okay.
of inspiration, beauty.
I hope so. If you don't mind, you're renowned. I would love to learn about your travels and everything as well.
You're sweet, boy, but I don't believe that I'm necessarily renowned. But I'll take it.
No, it's in your face. It's it's a present. You've seen things. That has to equate to renown.
Well, I definitely have seen a lot. Wars, I've seen births, I've seen many lands. So I carry those stories with me, that's for sure. Oh, maybe we shall share.
Yes, and we'll have one more after at the conclusion of this.
Hopefully, a good one.
Hope. He goes back down into his to his book, glancing up every once in a while to see if the conversation is going to continue.
And for Mujin, what are you drawing as far as that goes? Like when you're, what would you describe if someone were to take a quick peek at that? Like is it a roughshod drawing, or is there something that you would, what would it look like for us?
Yeah, so it's not actually drawing, it's more just
Oh,
text in
got it.
common of,
Got
okay,
it.
this is what's happening now. We set off. Uh, I heard this bellow from across the way. I looked up to see this person here. I looked up to see the children, the rice fields, and also the charting of the forest, rice field, and then beginning of this. That's what you see.
Ivan and
Hey,
Joey. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, the writing is sloppy. It's not refined. It's someone who is not actually um, a writer, but is trying their best.
Excellent. Ivan, Joey, any actions for you?
After you, my friend.
You poop. Ivan would be towards the back of the group, towards the back of the cart. And I think a horse was provided. If not, he's fine. He can move quick. But he's towards the back of the cart, just riding or walking and just looking around, just smiling, chuckling to himself, kind of eyeing Mujin, and then looking up at Joe Yi. Just slitted glance and just looking around like a child, just beholding everything with a curiosity.
Yuki, you would notice Boy run towards your side, and you notice that the horse is pretty much moving on autopilot. But Boy looks to you, and he has this, like, as if he's watching a living legend move amongst the people. And he stops and he says, I I have something I was wondering if you could sign. And he takes out what looks like a piece of paper, and it's like a small roughshod drawing of you in your crimson kimono. But on the side of it, it says, please get her to sign this. Love, and it's his little brother's name. And he just holds it in his hands like this. And
My pleasure.
he hands it to you, and it's he's tried to keep it from wrinkling, but the way it's folded over, you can tell it has a little bit. He tries to find what looks like a piece of chalk or anything. He's
Oh,
like,
don't worry. I came equipped. And she's going to reach into her it's almost like her rice bag, which basically is made out of different fabrics that look like they're from different lands. They're not just from Qorvi, but it's strips of different fabrics all woven together into this large little satchel. And she pulls out her calligrapher pen and her ink, and she takes a second, and she actually does stop um, Jugi's steed, and she carefully dips the pen into the ink, and she signs, and she takes really good care of making sure that as she signs that there's a special touch to it. So it's not just a quick, like, just I'm doing my John Hancock. She wants to make sure that they know that it means a lot to her, the respect that they are showing to her. So he writes, may peace with you, and may you always live a prosperous life. And then she signs it.
and you would
Well,
see,
while that's going on, there's just like a snickering coming from Mujin, who's just like, sounds like renown.
So be it. So be it. Then she puts away her her calligrapher's bit, and then ties the bag. And
actions for you, Joey.
Yeah. What's the temperature like?
You're looking at right now, after walking through this it's been about midday now, just because you had started about 2 o'clock in the morning, the sunrise had come up. From the sunrise to about the current status, you're looking at about 98 degrees and about 100% humidity.
Awesome.
So it is extremely hot in these rice fields. But you and all of you being here, you're not necessarily acclimated, but you're used to it. You're used to the humidity of this area.
Okay. I was gonna say I might need Celsius, but um, you'll see as so we are out in the open, of course, right? Yes. And you'll see Joey flying as if she's an eagle soaring through the sky, back and forth, just basically circling almost you guys, but like alongside, keeping a pace and making sure she's keeping an eye out for any trouble, anything that comes our way, keeping a bird's eye view, and to basically because it's getting warm and humid in the air, especially because heat rises, so you'll see her reach for her thigh on the slit of her dress, and she'll pull out a fan, of which she will just snap open as if it is second nature, as if it has been done a million times before. In the dancing lessons she's had, in any other lessons, anytime she's had to, she has, just out of tradition. And you'll hear this loud bang of this fan opening as she starts to fan herself as she flies along. And that's all she will do.
It's a moderate pace. You can actually see as you're floating around the horizon itself. You ever seen humidity? If anybody here has ever been to a place that has like decent humidity, it looks like a fog. I mean, it's pretty much sticking at the bottom parts of that where the rice fields are. The would More walking would happen, in which you would get to a point where, boy, you can see under the bags under his eyes. It's been about 2 o'clock in the morning. You've not had anything significant as far as a breakfast. You've probably passed lunch. Right now, you'd look at it about after the hours of traveling, it's about kind of settling into about 2:30, 3 o'clock. You would hear a boy look at you and he'd say, I have but meager supplies, but I can prepare something for you to eat if you're hungry.
I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
And the horse would stop, but he would almost look at you, Ivan and Mujun and Joyi, and ask, I could probably get us something to eat as well. Um, is anybody here hungry?
Like, completely, yes.
Famished.
Right.
Food would be good.
Not particularly, but I got some jerky I can munch on if needs be. You go on.
And you would see this person, he takes a lot of care in this. As you, the midday sun, you would kind of position the cart against what looks like a very large banana tree. He would take out a small knife and cut off banana leaves to prepare what looks like a place where he can actually place the food. He would collect branches, place them in the middle, take what looks like a match, break it, light up what looks like a fire. All of this taking about maybe 20 to 30 minutes out of your day. There would be a part of this where you would also notice at the back of the cart, he would grab some of the mochi boxes and place them individually on each side of the parts where you would be able to sit. Any actions for the group as this all happens happening?
Ivan would be not really near that circle or whatever he's making. He's keeping an eye on the world around, just kind of keeping a lay of the land and staying near the cart.
And as you're kind of moving to the edge of this, you would also see they look like villager children, but one of the children, maybe 7 years old, at least appearance wise. There's also two more that come by. They're all but like maybe 5 and 6 years old as well. And you would see this boy walk up to you and he would just look at you, bright eyes, smile on his face, and just stare.
Ivan would kind of squat down so he's somewhat face to face with the boy. You know, you have the same purpose in you as the kings or queens. You've got light in you. And he kind of like flicks his chin.
And you would see them look at each other, and one of them says something in a very different dialect than you had heard Joyi say, but he turns to you and he says, my my brother wants to know why your skin looks different than ours.
That's a great question. One that I don't even have the answer to. I come from Amarosh. You know where that is?
And they would say something in Korvashi again, and he turns to you and says, do they come as big as you are there?
Sometimes even bigger.
They all just stop, and you would see almost the curiosity of them. They just look over and they'd look and say, they're bigger than he is.
Don't worry. I'm just as scary as the rest of them.
You would see the little one just put his hands in his mouth, and he would just, the bigger one kind of steps in front, but it's that 8-year-old bravery that he's just kind of like puffing his chest and says something in Korvashi. And you can hear the brother look to you and say, no, he doesn't look like he's going to hurt us. And they just kind of stare.
I don't think I will either.
And one of them pulls what looks like a small cookie out of their pocket and then tries to like see if they want it. And it's almost like they're trying, they don't know if you would consume it, but it's this like naive walk up and just open up their hand, and you would see this cookie inside of there.
Where I come from, it's a bit of a barter system. So when you give me something, I've got to give you something. You'll see something cool.
And you'd see one of the kids like bring up their hand as if they're trying to receive something.
And he'll pick up a pebble next to him and roll it around in his fingers. He's like, but I've got to get the cookie first.
And it's the naivete, and he places it.
He just takes it with his teeth. And then he puts the pebble against the boy's forehead. And then the pebble will start to glow.
And they would they would start running away and laughing at the same time. And you would just hear them all running between like the broken banana leaves, and you can hear the stomping as you hear the words that are said. And Joyi, you would hear just in the distance of this, but you would actually hear the words, run, run, he's too funny. And the word funny being, it's a derivative of not ugly, but it's like pretending. And they would just run off as fast as they could.
Mm-hmm.
Yuki's gonna come from basically where behind she had been kind of observing where Ivan was speaking with the children and kind of in her own way listening in, and she's going to slowly walk next to Ivan. As I thought, more to you. And then she's gonna keep walking forward to try to check in. Way.
And that's where you would see Boy preparing what looks like a dish made of chicken. There's a very heavy accent of soy sauce and vinegar that's been placed in this. He's cut off what looks like pieces of leaves, and he's also just thrown these in there. There's peppercorns that he's mixed into it as well. The garlic that he's used, it's a rough cut because of the knife that he has to use. So it's not finely minced, but they're big pieces. As he's kind of stirring this, the thing is he brings up another lid, mixes it as well, and it's rice made fresh from scratch. It's not a rice cooker, it's an actual pot itself. But the part that gives you notice is he looks to you and says, my brother's a fisherman, my dad's a fisherman, and his parents before him. And he lifts up this small pot, and it looks like a fish stew, and it's the smell of it, you can tell it's like cardamom. It's almost like a very heavy, how am I going to say this, the notes itself, it smells like tamarind. And that's the part that just comes and wafts in, and green onion, and he places it back down, and he looks at you and says, it's almost done, I promise you. And you can tell that what he's doing, this is what brings him joy. These little things as far as cooking, and more importantly, as he's looking to you, you being able to share that meal with him. Yuki, what would you like to do or say?
What I've missed. all the delicious smells. Thank you, my.
And he smiles and he lifts up that fish stew and he almost does this thing where he just doesn't put his nose in to be offensive. It's the very classic waft the air in front of him to get it to come to him. And he smiles and says, "It's more lemongrass." And he goes and he just starts cutting as fast as he can, takes it, throws it into the pot, closes the lid, and then takes what looks like a small stone and puts it on top. At the same time, you'd see these kids at the ridge of this watching you guys as well. Any actions for you?
Yeah, I'm leaning on my steed, on the hind legs of my steed, because I know they're strong enough to hold me. And I sit there looking at my scimitars, my warforged scimitars, like they are made for war, they're made for battle. You can see the scars and the wounds from the training I've always had with them since I was young, since I became of age. And you can see that they have been used and abused and wear and tear. But yet I sit there with my sharpening stone that has a wedge just to sharpen the edges of both of my single-edged ones, as well as my double-edged one, double-edged. And you'll see that when she's done, she'll put them back in her back, where the singles will cross, but the double will go down the middle. There's a section of 3. And she will turn to Boy and say, "You're not a soldier, are you?"
He says, "No, I'm a fisherman. It's in my blood.
I
My
can
father
see-
is sick. He wouldn't allow him to go with Toshiro. So I went with him."
Well, is it fish stew that you're making?
It is. It's
It
our
smells-
house specialty.
It smells absolutely delicious, I'll tell you that. It smells amazing, actually. You're gonna have to share the recipe with me sometime.
And he walks up to you and he says, there's a feeling of having somebody from House Lamb ask him that. But the way he sits there and he takes the bowl and he empties it and he starts to serve each one of you. And what you're left with before we go on our break is a setup in front of you on a banana leaf where the rice is just put right on the leaf itself. The soup is poured on a small bowl that's of a coconut shell that he has made, and it's purely functional. This chicken vinegar soy sauce concoction that he has put together, he puts on top of the rice, and you can actually see the steam come up. But the whole embellishment where this all wraps into is to the right of it, you would see a part of the Miyazaki family, mochi, sitting right there. And it's their specialty, it's red bean. That being said, we will go ahead and prepare to take our first break before we get back. So thank you everybody for joining us. We will go on break. Is there anything else? Did we go from there? Nope. That's all I got.
See you soon.
I'm so hungry.
Bye.
Oh.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back from our break. We are going to continue with the Evermore Tales, the Samurai and the Dragon. Where we left off last time, we were actually enjoying one of the most simplest things that you'll see in Qorvi. What really brings the cultures and the people together is food. Just like the place that you would notice here is that they would share such simple cutlery. If things that are in front of them, it wouldn't be with forks, they would eat with their hands. You would also see as they're passing around the foods available, everything is made with pristine care. The vegetables that are made here, they're homegrown around you. There is not a single time where they've had to pull anything out of a bag. They would walk to the water brushes and bring this. And the thing around you in this campsite or this rough area that you're having lunch in, or this late lunch, or maybe an early dinner, is that you can smell the cardamom pods, you can smell the turmeric, you can smell all of these fresh vegetables and fresh spices being used. And that's where I'll put you as this boy is kind of rearranging a lot of the cutlery. He walks around, and there are parts of it where he does pay attention to a lot of what Yuki and Joyi do, but he also looks at Mujun as he does it as well. And there's a part where he steps back, and being this 19-year-old, very frail, small fisherman, he just sits there. And as he watches you guys eat, you see him unhook his instrument. He just looks at this recorder and he doesn't know how to play it, but he just looks, and you give him, he blows a couple of notes in, but it's horrible. And he just kind of puts it back, and he just tells himself, and you can hear, she was always a better player than I was. And he clasps it back, puts it behind him, and he just sits there. The floor is yours. You have the food in front of you, this small ember fire that's burning right, but I'd say about a couple feet from each of you, and the makeshift chairs that he has made out of the wood pieces that he's collected. What would you like to do?
Ivan, in just while everyone else is eating, Ivan would like to kind of come up as he's keeping a lay of the land up to Boy. And is Boy standing or sitting?
He's sitting.
Sitting. Ivan would like to kind of lean down with the creaking of bones and like as if he's old, and just kind of slowly get down and sitting down with his legs outstretched in front of him, his hands supporting his weight behind him. So you're a fisherman.
I am.
And your father?
He's a fisherman as well.
Grandfather?
He's a fisherman.
Do you want to be a fisherman?
I do.
That your deepest wish?
It is. It's something about it. Something about living off the land, and a person can really make of his own. The sea always provides. Remains calm. It's constant. And just like the Miyazaki family, it protects us. I am a fisherman. My family, it's in my blood. But more importantly, I love to cook.
I wouldn't say it's so much in your blood. It's you. Blood can be transferred. Dreams not. So if there's a dream that you're looking to have beyond being a fisherman, you can either start 100 years ago or you could start today.
I've always wanted to play this instrument. Never have the guts to do it.
And Ivan's on his right side. And so Ivan kind of looks over with a smirk. Well, then you might as well play it, as he taps his left mangled ear. Not like it's going to hurt me much more.
He smiles and he says, I understand. Maybe I'll do it from a distance. And he gets up. With the encouragement of the words that were given to him by Ivan, he takes the blue instrument and begins to walk into the forest. You can hear what sounds like the off notes. And eventually a couple of other notes begin to play, and it sounds as if he's able to play a small ditty together. but it fades away and you can just hear some frustrational comment points. And it's like as if you ever heard somebody, a child, practice an instrument. It goes back to the same beginning and plays again.
Is this sort of like a traditional song that us being from here would know?
And that's what you would. It's a rendition, at least from him, of it's not sukiyaki, but it's very much very close, where you would hear the notes and it would elongate, the crescendos would very much be the same. When he would play the sustainment parts that you would kind of enunciate on, it sounds exactly the way the winds would hit the bay or the of the archipelago itself. So yes, it's a very familiar song for you.
Mujin closes his eyes. Even in the even in the roughness of this, he just sort of just meditates on it, just thinks through it, trying to figure out exactly where it's going wrong.
And I'll turn to Yuki and I'll say, Zifu in Kanto means sensei.
Yes, child.
How have you been? Where have your travels taken you? And you'll see this demeanor change on Joey's. So she'll go from her stoic 18-year-old taking on the responsibility of a family and change. You'll see a flip of her changing back into that 10-year-old girl who looked up to you and Toshiro and your teachings and your ways with awe and aspirations and just pure excitement. Just a familiar face, almost family.
Yuki will look back at her eyes, almost memories flashing of Yi first learning fight in a battle, training alongside her and Toshi, and then flicker the moment that they're in right now, seeing the woman. Ah, child, I've gone wherever the wind takes me, much like your.
However, I am attached to Qorvi. There's not many places I can go or have the freedom to go.
As you know, there's a tether that always you
I,
is forever a home.
I greatly appreciate you for your teachings, your ways, and your guidance that it has always been, and your love.
And you'll always have. I'm just so proud and out and touches the side of her face of the woman you've become. Come such a long way from that scrawny little girl who tried to hold her wooden sword and hands shaking, knees bobbling, knocking together, not knowing where to place one foot or the other. Now look at you, forced to be recognized.
And you'll see the biggest grin create and grow on Joey's face as she recognizes this familiarity from you. And she'll say, yes, alas, I am no longer that child. I am no longer that little girl, as duties have come upon me. But I am honored to be fighting by you, Sifu.
By the
I'm glad to be here with you. And she'll continue to eat and grab handfuls by the fistfuls because she's never had manners when it comes to table manners. And she'll be stuck.
I see old habits die hard, as they say.
Oh, come on. Food is food. Food is to be enjoyed and loved and eaten. This is what I've always lived by when it comes to food. You know, the food of Qorvi is to die for.
Again, that tether. I am very aware of the delicacies, Qorvi, and The red bean, ugh, every time. And then she takes a bite of it. Like no other taste.
You know,
Home.
Yuki isn't far around the corner. Hoping to have a celebration with you all once we get back. We will. With Toshiro.
Oh, we won't stop until it happens.
We will not.
Now back to stuffing your face.
Yes, Mom. She'll just continue just shoveling all the food in massive handfuls.
Ah, Mujun.
Uh,
Seems that you have something on your mind.
Trying to figure out the tune. I wish I could be of assistance, but I'm terrible at music. It's quite the shortcoming of mine. Do you play any instruments?
I do. Have.
Yes. Well, after this, perhaps maybe I'll pick something up if I ever have the time. Just want to help. I hate not being able to help with the learning of that recorder there, but I guess I can't assist with everything.
A good lesson to learn. Some things people have to do for themselves.
Indeed. True. That's brilliant, actually. Okay. How did you just say that? Could you repeat that again? I want to get it down.
Oh,
If you don't
Gotcha.
mind, don't let me impose anything.
I believe I said that it is a good lesson to learn that some must do for themselves.
Do for themselves.
Some lessons must be learned. It's an individual journey. Get to the end result.
Perfect. Don't mind me, just learning.
We all are still learning. Even teachers and their grandmasters never stop each day. I think the moment that you think you're done learning, I tell you, not good to think that way. You should know, I thought I knew it all once.
What changed? Is there a defining moment in that?
I wouldn't say just one defining moment, several, but it's just something that during your, especially travel, learn the people you come across, and things you see, changes you so much more. Learn more about yourself. And that's, again, knowledge is to be found everywhere. And our friend there, practicing, they're struggling with it. Still something from.
Yes, I agree. I'm working on the same. I'm trying to figure these things out, and I won't stop. I
You
won't.
shouldn't.
As he says that, it's almost as if he kind of unfolds from himself, and just for momentarily, as he's delivering that, more broad, more open, and goes back into his former posture.
You just did there. More of that, not this. The way you were before. You're more relaxed. Sit up taller. More confident. More of that from you.
Yes.
Less of.
Come on, Mujun, you got this.
Okay. Yes. All right. Relaxed.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah,
Work in progress.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
And you
Okay.
can see the long, now with the grin, there's like these long bottom teeth that come out from the bottom of his mouth as he does that. Okay, well, yeah, I'll keep working on it, just like everything. It's another thing to study.
I believe you'll master it, like most, if any. You are the one to do it.
You two, we're strong people.
Wasn't without trials and tribulations, my friend. As Shifu here will tell you. And I turn to the and I say, Ivan, I say, do you play anything?
Sorry, what? As
Do you play-
he was staring up, kind of looking at the sky, looking around with his good eye.
do you play any instruments, my friend?
I played a pipe a while ago. Flute.
Hmm. Maybe you could help our friend over there, if possible. If not too difficult for you.
A recorder's not too difficult, but sometimes you got to break your own walls down to be able to find your starting place.
Mm-hmm.
Once he's ready to learn, maybe I'll help him out.
Yuki, do you have your instrument?
Perhaps.
Look through inventory.
And Joey will just grab her lute out and yell over to Boy. Boy!
You would see him come from the tree line. And throughout all of this conversation, you guys are realizing that it's been about a good couple of hours. The exchange of food happening, and you would see Boy look to you and he'd have just the box, and there's a look of frustration on his face that he just says, "I'll practice it later." Busan is 24, I'd say about another 24 hours of journey from here. We should be able to get there by tomorrow. But maybe not 24, maybe in like 10, if I think about it.
What time is it right now? Approximately.
And you're looking at it and you can see it's becoming sunset, but it's, I'd say, about 6 p.m.
Okay.
Roughly. Yep, roughly about 6 p.m. And he looks to you and asks, as he's doing this, you would recognize in the distance where the rice fields are, you would see the terrestrial rains that happen here. The typhoons that occasionally occur flash within minutes. But it's also what brings the life of this place front and center. It is what supplies the rice fields as the rains are happening, and they would probably be in your area approximately in 6 hours. But he tells you, I can prepare you some bedrolls. I'm really good at that.
They play something with me, please.
I'm not that very good of an instrument player.
I think you're doing just fine.
You're playing from the heart. And Yuki will go to grab from the wagon her instrument, Koto.
Yep. You would see him bring it out. There would be apprehension to it. He would look at it and he would tell you, I have an instrument that I know how to play. If it'd be okay with you, I'd like to keep this for something else. I'm not good at it, but I will be.
Of
And
course.
there's only one time I'd ever have this chance with. And he looks at Yuki and he just kind of keeps his eyes down, but it's the only time I would have this chance. And you would see him bring out what looks like it's a bow. It's a roughshod bow. At the end of it is a half of a coconut that he has cut off of it. And what he does with this is he places it against his chest. And the way this instrument works is depending on how his heart rate goes up and down, it can tune the actual instrument. But he plays it, and it sounds like a violin. But you can see as he holds his breath, the note gets a little sharper. You can see he takes a deep breath, the note gets a little lower. And he says, I'd love to play with you. And he takes a seat right next to you and he just adjusts his knees so he can take a seat down, and he's tuning the instrument and waiting for your lead. Joey, what would you like to do?
Would anyone else like to join in any way? Any beats or tempos on these boxes will count.
I can try it.
Yes?
Yes.
Then let's hear it. 100%. Anyone that wants to join in any capacity.
We'll be our own merry little band, if just for one night.
And
One night only.
and that's what you'll also notice too, is so much of that tethering point is that there's not a lot of things to entertain people here. So this is how they connect: music, stories, food, fire together. This is what brings the cultures of Qorvi together. You have an absolute stranger to this land, welcome to this area, as if he is just another cousin, a brother of a distant part. But you see the instruments that they bring out, he brings and plays from the heart. Joey, what would you like to play?
I'd like to turn to Yuki and I say, "Oh, Sifu, how I know you like to lead. Take the lead and I will follow."
I must. And Yuki takes a second and she closes her eyes, exhales, and then see her fingers just brush against the strings of her koto, which are, it's a little bit smaller than the normal size for a traditional koto. And she plucks at the string and beautiful melody starts to play. It's a bit somber, not upbeat, but it starts to pick up tempo, waiting for a
Yoyi will follow suit. Very much so, keeping in line as many times as they played before, the amount of musical lessons and just observations that she's made of Yuki every time she's played. So peaceful, so awe-inspiring. So she tries to keep up with her mentor.
Mujun, he takes out the mess kit that he has. It contains, like a cooking pan that you can use. And he tests it out with one of the small pieces of cutlery that's there. Just tests it out. It does produce this ringing sound that kind of, sustains for a little while. So he will try to use that to chime in whenever he can.
For you, Evan.
Ivan is he's restarted his pipe and he's just kind of watching this come about and just kind of looking around a little confused just at what he sees in front of him. He will not join, but he will watch. Just smoking his pipe and will blow a circle at times into the sky. But he's also keeping his eyes on the world around him, or eye on the world around him, to make sure that no unwanted attention is being brought.
And you would be looking around, and at the same point, you would hear Boy just begin to play this instrument. And the way he joins this accompaniment is he starts to play sukiyaki, but very slow. And you can hear him as his voice begins to shake. He sings the very first parts as he reminds what these words mean to everybody. It's the longing of being away, but always having the ability to come home. It's enjoying the simple things such as food. But he looks at Ivan and he notices he doesn't join in. He doesn't get offended by it, but he looks and stands and sits next to him. And the way this instrument works is it resonates into the ground from him. And you can feel it even vibrate into the ground itself. It is almost as if you can hear his heartbeat with yours. And he looks to you and says, "These are my people. This is why I am a fisherman. I can't go anywhere else in the world to see this." And he smiles and he puts the instrument down. And as you play into the night, he sets up a place to sleep. But the question I give to you is this: shall you travel in the night to get there faster, or wait till day?
This becomes like an open discussion question. Mujin would chime in as, by night, perhaps we can use the skies above, chart our path. course, this is dangerous, but I've been in the wilds alone before. Maybe we could handle ourselves. But comfort is important too to consider. I leave it up to you all.
I would suggest that we could take turns taking rest with the cart that we have and the horses that are here. But that is up to all of us. It is a team effort. We must stay together. As a
He is very familiar with the fact that I, for one, never need that much rest. Others. So, if anything, I would just be more concerned about your well-being. And she looks also too at Ivan to let him know with the eye contact that he's also included in that.
Personally, I'd feel much better if we continued in the night.
Then it's settled. So carry on.
And at the same voice as the words carry on is said with Yuki, you can hear the in the back as the lightning strikes. You can hear the rain beginning to pour. It goes for about 2 hours, 3 hours as you guys start the journey. Boy, before leaving the campsite, packing everything into a tight-knit bag, he looks and rolls the bedrolls and notices that you weren't going to use them, but understands that this is far more important. He would walk, begin to get all his bags together, and he would tell you as you move towards Busan. He would tell you a story. He would tell you how many of his friends, those that weren't soldiers, were there to give pilgrim or homage to the temples. He would tell you about what had happened to the monks, about the gruesome way they were ripped to shreds, those that tried to defend themselves. Nobody was spared. He would tell you the 10 monks that were taken. He would tell you of how Toshiro, with his bravery, would try to have stayed and tried to protect them. As you're walking, you would see him turn around and tell you, I'm going to be strong, because all I have left is to be strong. That's what Toshiro would have told me. Think with this first, then use this. And he looks down at his fist. This first. And you turn. As you're walking, the rain begins to hit. First, it starts off just a little bit of a trail, then it becomes a flash flood as it begins to rain completely down. Any actions for the group?
He, after hearing about Toshiro, what the boy learned from Toshi. Glad to know that, unfortunately, again, I feel that your heart is very. This burden is stronger together. I'll ride with you.
I would like that. He smiles and he goes to the horse and he offers to see if you'd like to sit on the horse or walk beside him. This 19-year-old boy, even seeing the parts of where maybe he still has some of the acne that kind of clouds the side of his face, still has the bags under his eyes of working long hours of a fisherman, and parts of his knuckle that have been, taken away just because of, doing such hard, arduous work. But it's an honor to have you near him. He shows that with his facial features, and he shows that with a smile in his mouth. Yuki, would you like to ride upon the horse? And he gets you there. Any other actions for the group?
Ivan will pull up his hood even before we really get into the rain, which the hood has the point at the back and then
Yeah.
the V at the front. He'll just keep his head down, and once the rain begins, is there usually this much rain? Quite a bit.
Yes, sometimes more.
We're practically swimming. Why didn't we bring a rowboat?
You're a funny man, aren't you?
I'm a wet man. Oh, did not mean that as it sounded.
Mujun crosses in front of Ivan and extends his arms. You can see just the gray skin just completely covered, his curls just like attached to his face. And what am I?
A monkey.
A monk? Yes.
I'm sorry, your wiseness is lost on me.
He just gives Ivan a slap on the shoulder and keeps walking, taking the rein.
And you'll hear Yuki yell, "Welcome to Qorvi, friend."
We all just work here.
And you would see that as you would see these kids running into the roads, throwing mud at each other. They're sliding in, and one of them just seems to run and jumps and lands on his stomach. And that's the first thing you notice is that they wear little to no clothing, but really don't matter. The rain, it's still 99 degrees. It's still 100% of humidity. They are living their best life in the fields right now. Other actions.
I'd like to say yes. Merry band. We must protect ourselves from getting ill in this downpour somehow or another. And the horses, let's not forget. We must do something. Some tarp, if anyone has any tarp or bedroll we can use. I have hemp, I have rope, possibly. Maybe hitting some of them down onto the cargo or whatever. Something to cause shelter, to give us shelter from this heavy downpour.
And around the roads, you do have those large banana leaves that kind of hang over to the side. There are palm fronds that actually do the same as well that you would see. And then occasionally you would notice that some of the children, that's actually what they do, is they would use the browner palm fronds and kind of hold it above their head, and it would kind of teeter down. Some of them would have the larger banana leaves as well. And it looks very classical, just this, you have the rain, the rice fields, the oxen that move in the background, every one of it. And the other part that you would notice from that too is that because of the 6 p.m., because how it's you had chosen to move in the darkness, in the distance, you would actually see in the forests fairy fire. Light. And that's what it is these kids running with these palm fronds trying to chase the fairy fire, and abundance of them. This is how they keep themselves entertained. You would keep moving and go to the base mountains of Mount of Bosun. There would be in front of you a town. This town itself looks abandoned. The big giant temple that's in the dead center of the entrance is about approximately 500 feet from it. Boy comes to you and says to Yuki, "This is where it was. This is where we saw it. I can lead you to the temple."
Please do. Feel it.
Do we continue forward?
Yuki will definitely move and follow.
Ivan?
Would it not be best for us to move a bit away, camp for the night, and then try back in the morning? Or are we going into it in the thick of it in the dark?
And that's what it is that you could see this. It's about approximately 4 a.m. The distance and walk has been long. The sun hasn't come up for at least another 2 hours. The rain's still settling, but even if the rain does, or if the sun does come up, you would assume the clouds made by the torrential downpour will occlude the sunlight.
So there's no like planetary bodies I can see because of the clouds and everything.
And that's the part you would look up and you would recognize where you look, Mujun. The clouds would separate all but momentarily. It's almost as if with intent. You would look at it and you would see it part, and in the distance you would see the stars.
Looking at this, can I see if we really are making progress here? If we keep going, will this, get us there?
Yep, give me an arcana when you get a chance.
Yeah. 12.
So some of the things that you would look at as you're looking up into the sky and looking at the stars, it's more than just constellations and locations. It's more than just the North Star, because one thing that you're seeing from here is just a glimpse, but there's a momentary thought where you can see what looks like a gigantic wolf move between what looks like these large stars. And it's all but a couple of seconds, but you would see this thing just move and jump. And in the middle of it, you would also see what looks like a spirit swimming in between, as if the center of it was this just large ruby. In the night sky, you would look, and all of a sudden the stars would kind of rehone itself. They would reposition themselves. Is there anything you'd like to say or do with the stars above?
I just muttered to myself, the planes. I give like this heavy blink as I try to focus on these things, to try to record what I'm seeing in my mind, trying to make this deep impression so that I don't forget this exact chart. I can't do anything now. It's pouring rain. If I try to pull out, my books or anything, be ruined. I want to keep this to work with it later. But the last thing I mutter is, guide us.
And that's what you would see as the first light would look like a North Star begin to shine. Another one would shine as well. They would illuminate all into the night sky. It would almost look like as if the map of Qorvi has been placed in a backdrop of stars. But the part that I want to give to you, Mujun, is you're sitting there looking at this. One thing you would notice is that you were looking at this, the first thing from the stars itself, you're asking to guide you. What would you be looking for specifically?
Mujin is looking for the quickest way to our destination. So if we keep going tonight, will that be beneficial? What I want to know.
And you can see the illumination pattern from the stars pointing directly to Busan. It cuts through the rice fields, it cuts through the ravines, but it is essentially what you would assume is a shortcut, guided by the stars above you, guided purely based on the emotional connection you have with the galaxies above.
So I relay this. I say that we must keep going. We go this way. And I point in the general direction. We may be able to save some time, but we must press on. Must brave this. We are tough. Just water for now. What do you say?
Keep your eyes open. Your wits about you. Ivan, do you still protest?
It's not that I protest about going forward. I want to make sure we are fresh for whatever may befall us as we enter this area. If this is where, as he nods to boy, we've been told that many have been ripped apart by an unknown entity. A shadow of an entity is better than none, and that's something the sun would be able to provide.
I understand the caution. We must move forward. Thank you, Mujun, for communicating with the stars.
Yes.
That's strong, my friend. You've done well. You've aided us. We can't imagine.
Right.
Ivan, I believe I understand the caution. I do understand. But if this is the path we must take, we must push forward. so we get to Toshiro in time and in good time.
I am at your service, madam. Where do we go?
You would walk. But the last points of this you would see in front of you at the city. There would be a gentleman sitting there, and you would see him look at you, and he would walk up to you. Don't go in here. The bodies are still fresh. They've not cleaned everything. The townspeople refuse to leave. Not welcome here. You would see him stop you, at least make an attempt to stop you. Actions for the group?
Afraid, my friend, we must continue. Must approach. It's our duty. To the bottom.
And to investigate the horrid incident that has occurred and hopefully resolve this terrible scenario.
I need an investigation check from both Yuki and Joyi.
That investigation?
That's correct.
That is a 16.
Excellent.
15.
And one of the things you notice is he stands up and he gets up, turns his head and walks away. Momentarily, it almost looks like his face is struggling to stay together. You would see what looks like this demonic look to his face, almost what seems to be these tusks that extend from the bottom of his mouth. You would also see parts of his nose that has been raggedly removed, parts of the bone that's been inset to make what looks like a mockery of a mask. But he would get up and just walk. It's almost a flicker of a second. It would smell very like blighted stone, rancid. You would almost hear it's almost like that collection of just this bad milk and sulfur. It would turn and it would walk into the rain. Yuki, you're staring at what looks like this temple in front of you. There are homes. The rain just tap dancing on the tile sets of each of these buildings. The pond fronds, the banana leaves, and the dirt. What would you all like to do? His boy goes, doesn't have weapons, not by much, but he pulls out a small weapon that looks like a blade. He takes a deep breath and begins to walk in.
Did the person already basically leave out of line of sight?
You would assume yes, as he's going away.
But he's
Yuki,
still walking away.
Yes.
One moment.
And it would turn to you and he would just say, it's blighted. It's ruined. There are things here, demon, that you go far. See him turn. He would begin to keep walking.
Like I've seen your true face. Do you?
yes,
Do you see?
I do. I do see.
The additional things, Yuyi, that you would notice around this is that same weathered, as if you're wearing a large blanket in this rain, can be felt from the buildings here, can be felt from the temple. And that's the part here as you dig into the mud and notice with your golden slippers, the mud that's seeking in between your toes here. It's that. This land that you're standing on is rancid. Quite different from the typical Qorvi that you would remember. Quite different from a place that is supposed to harbor the safety of monks.
I turn to the boys and I say, there is something very, very wrong here. We must be very careful. Something is rancid about this area now. Right, Yuki?
Could feel it the moment that we stepped. Mujun, did you feel the same?
Yes. It's everywhere. The stench feeling. I'll be on guard, Ivan. You sense this too?
Did I?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely feeling it. Definitely not the best welcoming party, but not unheard of, as he's going to slip off the horse and land into the mud. All
You'll
right.
see Yuki take Juyi to the side, and she places her forehead upon forehead.
Mm. Have we done this before?
We have. May you be protected, child. And then you'll see again, kind of similar to what happened before with Boy and her. You'll feel, but this time you don't see it, but you feel like a rush of energy, almost a calm, even though in this space, this where we sense this unpleasantness and this thickness in the air, there's a strength that you feel something within you and you know that you're protected. And that is Yuki protecting you from in that moment.
Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. I will be our sword and shield lead. Center.
And remember, look beyond the surface. That's where the answer.
I will try to see through.
It might be best, if you don't mind me interjecting, but seeing as you have a hired individual here, expendable, if I do say so myself, it might be best to put me in the lead, and then you either close behind. But that is just a humble opinion, my ladies.
Well, just as you understand that no one's expendable.
Mhm.
Every life has worth, including yours. You are our ally now. Just remember.
Understandable view. Thank you. But the offer still stands. No. Mujun, what were you saying?
This is a London question. Other than us, who are we seeing here again?
So basically, what it was a monk that had tried to welcome you, or a person that was robed, but after he was told to wave off, he walks off. This building, or basically what you're looking at is there's rain that's coming in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
All you see are the buildings, but it's empty. At least you don't see anybody moving in the streets.
Okay. Got you. Well, what I'm going to do is I reach into my things. I pull out this medallion that I have. It's golden as well. It's kind of shaped in the form of a skull, not like an ominous skull or anything, but just a skull. And it has these deep, like almost like ruby-like impressions for the eyes there. I put that on. This is a medallion that I received, a medallion of thoughts. So with that, I just want to like cast detect thoughts to see if there's any thinking creatures around that we can't see near
And
us.
you can hear, shh, quiet, shh. And you would just hear this sounds of positioning, sounds of at least there are people within the city that are hiding at least.
Hold up a hand. They're hiding. Just heard. I don't know if this will let me see the exact direction.
And if you were to close your eyes, you would see the formation of the stars itself. But it's just as if it was an illumination. You would see the same illumination coming from some of the buildings.
Got you. So I relay that information. I translate that to my companions here. People are ground.
Sounds like there's possibly an ambush.
Not now. We know.
Well, if you guys are fine with entering, then I've got a friend that could help us. A quite good looking fellow, if I do say so myself.
Yes. Ooh.
And just a smile spreads. Are you ready to enter this possibly forsaken place?
I look at Joey, and then Yuki.
I want to see if I can see anything different about Ivan. See if I notice anything.
Yuki would
Ivan.
want to perceive as well,
Yeah.
for sure.
What do they see, Ivan?
They see Ivan as he usually is. But you see he started to reach back and kind of retie and tighten the eye patch for his eye, and I just really love to fight.
Boy takes the first steps into the city.
And Ivan will grab his arm for a second. Allow me. As he looks down at the ground and away from everyone else, will lift the eye patch a bit and touch the mud and rub his fingers into it, and then pull upward. As he pulls upward, a shadow rises from the mud as the exact look of Ivan grows from it. All right, did you do best? And the shadow nods. And then as it moves forward, it's almost like the rain washes away the shadow and shade from around it as a perfect replica of Ivan moves into the city. Like I said,
Interesting.
pretty good looking.
See.
Move.
And as this happens, Joey's vein will start to glow a little bit, almost celestial. And she's getting ready to fight if she needs be. And she'll grab her shield and grab her double-edged scimitar and start pushing forward behind Ivan.
There would be buildings in front of you. You can go straight to go into the temple. You can go left to go into an alleyway and right to go into another alleyway. There would be inside these buildings, they would be feel and look completely abandoned. You would actually see as if people have taken trash and food and have left it really on the fronts of their persons or the fronts of their homes, hanging fish that have been there for way too long, days, if not weeks. At least the time that it looks like it's been developed to that. You would also smell that heavy blighted stone, that heavy sulfur smell in the city. Would you like to go straight to go to the temple, left to an alleyway, or right?
Shadow Ivan will be moving straight forward through the center, but Ivan himself will wait for the rest of the group.
Quick question. Would Yuki be able to identify what just happened with the shadow?
Give me Arcana when you get a chance.
Ooh. 21.
Ooh, looking at the formation of it, you would notice that whatever was created came from an energy source of itself. You would also notice that as the energy was being transferred, it's not it's you've heard of these things, but they're copies, like homunculi. They don't have physical form. They don't have like perceptions. It's literally a carbon copy of itself. But the rest of that is covered in desert mystery, because the part that he would show with that is very different for Ivan is that you would actually see that copy breathe. You would actually see it independently blink. I'll leave it at that.
So it is a magic.
You would assume it was. Or some form of, I wouldn't say magic, but it was arcane at text, but not
Arcane.
necessarily spell.
Okay. Yuki processes that and just doesn't say anything further than obviously she mentioned interesting because she's been observing Ivan very closely. And I believe we should investigate. But, and the team, I will not be the final dead.
I, for one, agree. That will help us get to the bottom of this.
Does seem to make sense.
Help us plan our steps as well.
Mujun,
Yes.
would you like help up to the one of the rooftops? It might be good to have a view from up there.
And I guess that could come in handy. If things go down, I'm not as affected from a distance, however.
Gotcha. And Joey, I know you need no help getting up there.
No, I don't. I could help always lift someone up there. Hopefully grab on. Give someone a lift.
I always use that assistance.
All right. So you would go into the city, careful, paying attention. You've got weapons drawn, moving to the left. You would see Mujin kind of keeping together. You would move around, look at the rooftops, notice that there's nothing moving from the rooftops, at least from the rain side. Ivan sending out forth their shadow. You would see that move towards what looks like the temple. Yuki paying close attention to that. You'd see Joyi fly up, help Yuki up above to get at a better vantage point. The lifting that you would notice, though, as you were kind of taking off, you would see arrows being shot at that carbon copy of Ivan. You would hear this coming from one of the windows. Your vantage point, you would see that. Throughout all of this, though, as if everybody's looking, you have Mujin looking at the roof. You have Ivan looking at the copy. You have Joyi focusing on bringing Yuki up to the roof. Yuki focusing on looking at the person in the window. And Ivan, you look and turn and see Boy. And he just looks at you and he just goes. And you see an arrow hanging right where his lung is. He just stares at you and he just. And he just falls straight to the ground.
And you said he was looking at me when he fell?
Yes.
Ivan, if he was close enough, he would have tried to get an arm underneath him.
Give me a dexterity when you get a chance. All right.
No, an 8.
And you would run over there and you would see him hit the ground and you would see Boy looking the way the vantage point on the wall is, looks like it's covering from the window that the arrow may have come from. You see him, you're holding him, he just looks directly at you and you just hear him just going, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Ivan will protection, shut up. I'll take care of him. As
Does
he
Yuki
has
hear that?
Yeah.
He's got his shield in his left hand and his axe hand has now dropped, putting the axe in the mud, and he's over top of Boy. So you guys take care of what's in front. I'll take care of him. Don't matter what happened to me. Go.
You would see that Yuki, as what looks like his feet begin to pedal downwards as if he's stepping on the gas pedal. You would see the arrow that goes through, and the way it's been curved into his back, it looks like it's exiting at the small of his back. You would see his feet begin to turn in like this. And you would just see him look at you, and he's just this fear of an 8-year-old child not knowing what's going to happen next.
Juyi, bring me to the ground. Now!
I do. I grab her and just straight down.
You fly right down, drop down in position. You would see as Yuki, you right down, you right next to him. What would you like to do?
I would like to run to his side and touch the area of the wound and do spare the dying.
You go to touch the wound and you would see him look at you and you would just see him go, I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Hang on.
Mujun also walks over, seeing this, just staying serene, just looking, not showing any sort of, weakness or sadness, making a point of that.
Ivan will look at Yuki with a seriousness, but still his smile. Take care of the threat. You said you trust me? Then trust me. Go. As he will then look back down to Boy and grab him underneath the head, and he will begin to lift the eye patch as he puts his head down to try and gain eye contact with Boy, and will let the group do whatever they push.
Yuki, what you would notice is this connection as he does with him, he does hold on to what looks like his hands, but there's a fear in this. You've seen Boy walk every day to the coastline. You've seen him use the fishing rod that his father has used. You've seen the items that he collects with it. You would also see next to him a broken recorder at the fall that he had been made. He looks at you and you've been given this to take care of the threat. But right now, if you were to say anything to Boy that you would consider to be your last word, his last words, you would assume the spell that you're using is trying to work. Is there anything you want to say to him?
Let's live on. They're in this life.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
As a last ditch, almost like her own, like seeing that and not wanting it to be true that it looks like his life is passing on. She's going to again attempt, and she's going to for life for a healing word to try to see if she can heal him at all.
And this is where Yuki, the desperation in her actions, the calm teacher, the fierce warrior spirit, the gentle hand placed on this boy. As you dig your hand, you can feel the blood coming out of his chest. You feel the life starting to wane. It's not that the magic isn't working, but it's exactly that. Whatever is in this city, canceling it. You can see the fear in his face as he's looked at you and seen you heal so many people in this village. Mujun, standing there, stalwart, not emotionless. Ivan with his band out from his head. Joey, is there anything you want to say to Boy?
I she'll turn and hold out a shield to protect the group at the moment while we're vulnerable in this, right in this moment. And she puts her hand back just to touch his arm, using her.
And Yuki, as you're holding him, he would close his eyes. He'd open them up again, look at you. He's not looking at you, he's looking through you. Hear him say, Mama? Mama? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Takes him into her arms as if holding, like if it was her child, holding him close. Be afraid. Brave. Our love.
How far is the opening of the city from here? And would Ivan have been able to tell that her magic, or whatever it was, her energy did not hold?
That's what you're looking at as you turn, looking for answers. But you recognize Yuki embracing this 19-year-old child as if he is an 8-year-old little boy. You see the rain falling onto his hair, and Yuki just pushed it aside. His eyes begin to dilate. His pulse is no more. Legs begin to turn. The arrow had gone through his spine. The magic being canceled because what has been here. And all of this, the back sound of rain. It's been a very long time since somebody in Qorvi has died like this. Yuki, exactly that. You share the same embrace of one that is a mother, child. Because what you're embracing here is the fear of what House Miyazaki has, is what a mother would fear at the death of their only child. And you recognize that. You recognize that just as much as Boy is a student of life, Toshiro is a student of yours. The rain continues. This is where we will leave everybody. We will start episode 2. I thank everybody for their time. And I truly appreciate the story. I hope every one of us have enjoyed this. But what I want you to take away from this, I'd like one thing. Mujun, we'll start our way down. There was one word that described your character. What would it be?
Internal.
Ivan. There was one word that described your character. What would it be?
Jester.
Julie, there was one word to describe your character. What would it be?
Strength.
And Yuki, in the silence of all of this, you would see a stranger. You would see the orc, and you would see the strength of the Qorvashi people. And when we talk about tether, it's that. It's the welcomeness of the stranger in the middle. But it's also looking at the orc, can't stand on its own. For the child that is only able to hold their strength because of the teacher that stands before them. Yuki, if there was one word that resembled your character, what would it be?
Protector.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. I truly appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.